The air inside the black ship is a choking, metallic miasma that clings to my throat and fills my lungs with the taste of rust and sterilized fear. Every surface shivers under the hum of the engines, a vibration that crawls up my spine and settles like lead in my stomach. The lights flicker in intermittent bursts, revealing walls scarred with etchings I cannot read, yet feel written in the language of inevitability. It smells of ozone and oil, of burnt circuitry and the faint tang of incense that someone, somewhere, has burned in a hollow attempt to sanctify this metallic tomb. I am alone, yet not. Shadows gather and stretch along the bulkheads as if they have will, and the ship groans in a low, omniscient moan. My footsteps echo against the cold deck plating, each one a reminder that I am an intruder here, a witness to a purpose I do not yet understand. The hum of the engines, the whispering of the ducts, the occasional distant clang. These are the voices of the black ship, speaking in a tongue older than my comprehension, calling me toward a destiny I cannot yet see. At first, I resist. I resist the pull toward the abyssal chambers below, the inner sanctum where I know ritual awaits. My mind recoils at the idea of submission, of performing rites whose meaning I do not grasp. And yet, even as my thoughts churn in rebellion, there is a rhythm to the corridors, a cadence in the vibrations beneath my feet that insinuates itself into my heartbeat. I feel my skin crawl under the scrutiny of unseen eyes, and I cannot tell if they are watching or if I have merely become so attuned to this place that I perceive the absence of their gaze as attention. The first task is simple: cleanse the chambers. Sterilize. Purge. But each swipe of the cloth against the steel surfaces brings with it a whisper, a suggestion, a pressure on the soul. It is not just dust and grime I remove. It is remnants of thought, fragments of memory, echoes of those who came before. The black ship demands obedience, and yet it offers no guidance. Only a weight in my chest, growing heavier with every inhalation, pressing me toward acquiescence. I sit in the observation deck, watching the void stretch into infinity. Stars scatter like spilled salt across the darkness, yet they are distant and indifferent, silent witnesses to the procession of the damned. I trace their patterns with my mind, seeking symmetry, seeking meaning, but all I find is entropy and the cold calculus of inevitability. I hear the echo of chanting from deep within the ship, rhythmic, monotonous, almost hypnotic. It is not language I recognize, yet it resonates in some marrow-deep part of me that remembers ritual before thought, ceremony before comprehension. A door opens somewhere behind me, sliding without a sound, and I startle as a figure emerges. It is clad in black robes, a mask of ivory covering features I cannot discern. "You are here," the voice says, low, calm, resonant, "because the Emperor wills it, and because you are necessary." I nod, though the nod feels like a betrayal of my own intent. The figure gestures toward the inner sanctum. "Do you understand your role?" I do not. And yet, the refusal has already become impossible. I am drawn toward the chamber as if gravity itself has changed direction. Inside, the walls are inscribed with glyphs that shimmer faintly in the dim light, each line a promise of pain or salvation, perhaps both. I touch them. The stone is warm under my fingers, alive in a way that contradicts physics, contradicts sense. Whispers slide into my mind, half-formed thoughts of devotion, fear, and inevitability. I close my eyes and breathe the acrid incense deeply, feeling it burn through my sinuses and settle into my chest like molten iron. I am called to kneel. My knees scrape against the floor plating, and the sound seems deafening in the quiet of the chamber. I hesitate, the part of me that is still human quivering against the inexorable pull. The figure steps forward, hands clasped in ritual, reciting a litany I cannot follow, yet somehow understand in fragments. Shadows of meaning dancing along synapses like spiders across webbed glass. I taste blood in my mouth, metallic and warm, though I have not cut myself. It is the taste of initiation. Hours, or minutes, pass. Time is meaningless here. The ritual presses on, relentless, and with each recitation, each gesture, I feel my resistance erode. I am both spectator and participant, witness and sacrifice. My mind fractures in subtle ways. each shard reflecting a truth too heavy for a single consciousness. The black ship has no mercy, and I am learning that mercy is an illusion, a comfort that dies quickly in the cold, endless void. Then comes the vision, a corridor bathed in pale, phosphorescent light, walls pulsating like the innards of some colossal organism. Figures move within, faceless, endless, performing rites that are at once horrifying and beautiful. And at the center, I see the purpose of the black ships, not simply the transport of souls, but the refinement of devotion, the crucible of obedience that the Imperium demands. It is not cleansing or transporting that matters. It is the shaping of the soul, the forging of compliance, the preparation for eternity. I stand, trembling, aware that the vessel beneath me is alive and aware, and that it has chosen me, or perhaps I have chosen it. Either way, the line between will and compulsion blurs. The figure before me steps aside, gesturing toward the corridor that leads deeper, toward duties and revelations I cannot yet bear. And I step forward, not fully willing, not fully resigned, but moving nonetheless, drawn into the spiraling heart of the black ship, where destiny waits with quiet, inexorable patience. The corridors pulse beneath my feet as though the ship itself has veins and arteries, and I am a newly inducted servant to its circulatory rhythm. The metal walls seem warmer now, humming with a subtle resonance that matches the thudding of my heart. Air here is no longer merely air. It is charged with electricity and expectation, a tactile presence that slides across my skin and curls around my spine. The lights are steadier than before, pale and unyielding, casting shadows that do not move in accordance with the geometry of the corridors. I have come to understand, in a murky, instinctual way, that the black ship is alive, not in the sense of flesh and bone, but of awareness, of purpose, of predestination. Every creak, every vibration, every whisper of ventilation is a communication. I am no longer merely aboard. I am part of its mind, a synapse in a sprawling, intricate organism that spans the void. My limbs move with an unnatural precision, guided by impulses I do not consciously control. There is fear in that, yes, but also a strange clarity. Resistance fades when every action becomes a natural extension of this metallic consciousness. The first tasks of the day, or what passes for day aboard a vessel without sunrise, are routine, maintenance, observation, cataloging. Yet even routine carries weight here. I scrub and polish conduits, but my hands sense more than dirt. They sense echoes of those who have passed, the psychic residue of sacrifice and devotion that lingers in the steel. There are whispers now, persistent, slipping through the gaps in ventilation and creaking bulkheads. They are not threatening, exactly, but insistent, less commands than invitations, offering understanding in exchange for obedience. I speak aloud occasionally, though the sound seems strange in the stillness. I understand. I murmured during one inspection, feeling the words vibrate against the metal walls. No one answers. Perhaps no one ever will. Perhaps my own voice is the answer the ship seeks, the recognition of its logic in human form. There is a quiet terror in the realization that my thoughts are not entirely my own, that the line between what I will and what the ship wills is vanishing like mist in the cold void. Lunch is a ceremony in itself. Nutrient-paced, tasteless and gray, consumed in silence while monitoring consoles hum and display glyphs whose meaning is instinctive rather than learned. I eat mechanically, chewing slowly, aware of the texture and temperature in a way that is almost meditative. The air smells faintly of ozone and burnt circuits, and the taste of iron lingers at the back of my throat. I close my eyes and allow my mind to drift with the hum of the engines, feeling a strange unity with the vessel, a tentative merging of consciousness and machine. The central chamber beckons, a place I have not yet fully entered. I walk there, barefoot now, the plating cool beneath my feet, a tactile contrast to the heat of my inner awareness. The chamber is vast, cathedral-like, and lined with conduits that pulse in an almost organic rhythm. Here, ritual begins not with words, but with motion, the adjustment of valves, the calibration of servos, the precise tracing of energy conduits with hands that know their path instinctively. I feel a profound solemnity, a sacredness in labor itself, a realization that devotion need not be spoken to be enacted. A voice interrupts my concentration, smooth and cold, emanating from a speaker that seems unnecessary. The vessel requires balance. It intones, and I nod, acknowledging a command I do not fully comprehend but cannot refuse. Balance is not merely technical. It is psychological, spiritual, existential. Every adjustment of machinery is mirrored by adjustments in my own psyche, the ship calibrating me as much as I calibrate it. My reflection in the polished steel walls shows a face I do not recognize. Pale, tense, eyes wide with both fear and comprehension. Night, or what passes for night, is oppressive. The ship's lights dim marginally, and the corridors take on a different cadence, softer, slower, almost whispering. I sit alone on a bench in one of the observation halls, watching distant stars blur as the ship hums through the void. My thoughts circle endlessly. Fear, duty, doubt, devotion. Resistance feels distant now, a memory of a self that existed before the ship's rhythms claimed me. I trace the contours of the console in front of me, feeling warmth and vibration, and for the first time I sense the presence of purpose. The black ship does not merely transport, it transforms. In the quiet, I hear the ritual begin elsewhere. Chanting, low and resonant, penetrates the bulkheads and settles in my chest. I do not understand the words, yet I comprehend their intent. Shaping, refining, purifying. A shiver runs through me as I realize I am being called not just to witness, but to participate. Obedience is no longer optional, it is inevitable. And yet, within that inevitability, there is a strange, perverse comfort, a recognition that the ship has chosen me for reasons beyond fear or duty. I rise and move toward the inner sanctum, drawn by the vibrations of machinery and the whisper of ritual. The corridors narrow, forcing focus, demanding attention, demanding submission. My mind is no longer entirely my own. It splits and merges, oscillating between reflection and instinct. The ship's consciousness coils around mine, probing, testing, integrating. Each step deepens the union. Each breath aligns me more fully with its unyielding will. Then I feel it, a moment of clarity amid the monotony of labor. The black ship is not evil, not good, it is necessary. It exists to serve the Imperium in a way no individual can comprehend, refining devotion, purging resistance, shaping the souls of those it claims. My pulse quickens with both awe and terror. I am not merely a passenger or servant. I am a conduit, a vessel within a vessel, a fragment of purpose in an endless void. The realization is intoxicating, frightening, and liberating all at once. I kneel in the chamber, hands resting on conduits that hum beneath my fingers, feeling the life of the machine pulse in rhythm with my own. Shadows dance on the walls, refracted by lights that do not flicker but breathe, and I whisper words I do not remember learning. The black ship accepts them, absorbs them, and I feel the faint stirrings of transcendence, my fear, my resistance, beginning to dissolve. The hum grows louder, a living heartbeat that fills the chamber, and I understand that my journey has truly begun. Resistance is not yet gone, but it is no longer necessary. Acceptance has taken root. The black ship waits, patient and infinite, and I step deeper into its veins, toward duties, revelations, and horrors yet unseen, bound inextricably to the purpose I am only beginning to comprehend. The scent of burning incense is stronger here, clinging to my robes and drifting into my lungs like a subtle poison. Each inhalation sears my chest with a strange warmth, as though the smoke carries intention, not aroma. The chamber is vast, arches rising to heights I cannot measure, conduits threading along walls like arteries. Light glints off polished steel, glimmers off brass fittings, and every surface hums with latent energy. I step lightly, though my feet feel leaden, the weight of unseen expectation pressing downward, shaping my gait, guiding my motion. I kneel at the altar, a structure of metal and carved stone that seems older than the stars themselves. Hands trembling, I touch the glyphs etched into the surface. They are warm, pulsing faintly, resonating through my fingers into my arms, my chest, my skull. A voice calls from somewhere behind the veil of corridors and bulkheads. Recite the litany. I do so, words unfamiliar yet forming naturally on my tongue, syllables unbidden, instincts I did not know I possessed. Each word is a tether, binding me more firmly to the black ship, more thoroughly to its purpose. Fear still lingers at the edges, gnawing like vermin beneath polished floors, but I feel the first tendrils of acceptance. My mind is no longer a fortress, but a conduit. Thoughts flow in currents guided by ritual. Resistance becomes a memory, distant and brittle. I trace each glyph with fingers that know their place even before my consciousness does, feeling the electric warmth of the ship's awareness beneath the steel, around the stone, through me. The litany continues for what could be hours. There is no measure of time here, only rhythm, the cadence of the ship, the steady thrum of life amidst metal and void. I sense other presences, shadows moving in peripheral vision, but when I turn, there is nothing. Or perhaps they are not separate. Perhaps the ship itself manifests them, fragments of thought given shape, guiding, teaching, punishing, comforting. My reflection in polished surfaces shows eyes wider than they were, the skin pale, veins tracing intricate maps beneath the surface. Dialogue, when it comes, is rare and formal. A figure approaches, masked, robed, voice soft yet carrying through the chamber. You are learning, it observes. I nod. The admission tastes like ash and blood, yet it is accurate. I am learning, but at the cost of parts of myself I cannot name. The figure steps back, gesturing to the altar, the glyphs, the conduits that pulse with life. Every movement, every thought, is devotion. Every obedience, a purification. Accept it. I do, with a trembling mind and hands that no longer feel fully my own. The hum of machinery beneath the floor plates grows, a resonance that fills the chamber, reverberates in my bones. I cannot distinguish the sound from the rhythm of my own heart. Each repetition of ritual, each careful calibration of instruments, each intonation of the litany aligns me further with the ship. Resistance is not extinguished entirely, but it becomes pointless, a faint echo I hear only when I pause, which I rarely do. During a brief pause, I walk the perimeter of the chamber. The air is cooler here, and the metal walls sweat condensation that catches light like liquid mercury. I run fingers along conduits, tracing the path of energy as though I can feel the lifeblood of the vessel flowing. A shiver runs through me, not entirely unpleasant, as if the ship itself acknowledges my compliance. The corridors beyond are silent, but I sense eyes, unblinking, patient, impartial. They measure my devotion, count my breaths, watch my hesitation and my obedience alike. Hours pass, or perhaps minutes. The distinction is meaningless. I kneel again, following the exact motions prescribed, calibrating glyphs, tracing energy conduits with fingertips worn raw. Sweat beads on my forehead, smells of iron, and the chemical tang of incense mixing into a perfume of ritual and inevitability. I close my eyes and surrender fully to the rhythm, each motion carving a deeper channel into the psyche, shaping me into what the ship requires: a participant, a conduit, a vessel. A whisper reaches my mind, not a voice, but an impression, an idea embedded in thought. You are necessary, not optional, not replaceable. The words are neither threatening nor comforting, merely factual. My resistance shrinks under the weight of inevitability. I feel a strange relief in it, the freedom of no longer having to choose, of no longer having to weigh action against fear. Obedience, I realize, is its own kind of sanctuary, a refuge from the chaos of thought. Ritual extends beyond the chamber. I move through the corridors, performing minor duties with the same attention to detail, the same devotion to exactness. Doors are checked, conduits aligned, machinery monitored, yet each action carries the same gravity, the same sense of spiritual weight. My hands, once unpracticed and uncertain, move now with certainty, almost as if the ship itself guides them. I begin to feel the subtle joy of competence intertwined with dread, a grim satisfaction born of understanding purpose and the terror of knowing it is mine, irrevocably. Then comes the turning point, a glimpse into the ship's deeper function. I stand before a bulkhead lined with vents, peering through a small observation port. Within, figures suspended in stasis float in tubes, pale, their faces calm, mouths slightly open. They are not dead, yet not alive in a familiar sense. Their purpose is unclear to me, yet I feel instinctively that they are part of the ritual as much as the conduits and glyphs. Obedience to the black ship is no longer abstract. It carries consequence, shaping life and soul with every act. I step back, mind reeling with comprehension and fear. The litany continues in my memory, intoned silently on my lips, aligning me with the vessel. I understand now that the ship does not merely guide, it molds, refines, transforms. Fear becomes a tool rather than an impediment, shaping my focus, sharpening my devotion. I kneel again, this time not in hesitation, but in deliberate acknowledgement of what I have become: participant, witness, instrument. The chamber falls silent, except for the faint hum of machinery and the soft, almost imperceptible chant resonating through bulkheads. I feel the first stirrings of transcendence, a partial merging of will with the ship, a relinquishing of self that is neither wholly joyful nor entirely fearful. Shadows twist in corners, reflections stretch across polished steel, and I whisper words I no longer fully understand, yet know to be true. The black ship waits. It always waits. And I, kneeling in the litany's embrace, sense the next movement already forming in the rhythm of the vessel, the next revelation, the next step into a purpose that is both mine and not mine. Resistance has become memory, obedience the present, and something beyond comprehension, transcendence, hums quietly beneath the surface. The air below deck is thicker, denser, like walking into a dream made of smoke. It smells of sweat, blood, and sanctified oils, a cocktail of scents that clings to my tongue and lingers in my nostrils. The temperature drops sharply as I descend the spiral stairwell, my fingers grazing the cold rail, slick with condensation that feels more like dew than water. Each step echoes downward into darkness, the hum of the ship deepening into a low drone, a sound that resonates in my ribcage and skull like a second heartbeat. When I reach the base, the corridor stretches endlessly, lit only by narrow slits of pale light that slice across the darkness like blades. Shadows mass in the corners, moving when I do not look directly at them. I pull my robe tighter against the cold and follow the masked guide who walks ahead, their silent gait a study in ritual precision. My bare feet brush against the floor, not metal here, but a composite that feels strangely organic, soft beneath my soles, like flesh tensed under pressure. The corridor opens into a chamber vast beyond imagining. Tier upon tier of capsules line the walls, reaching up into the darkness like a cathedral turned inside out. Each capsule holds a figure, gaunt, pale, features slack in stasis but twitching with dreams. Tubes run into their veins, wires into their skulls, their breath slow but audible, 100,000 heartbeats echoing through the chamber. The smell of sanctified oil is stronger here, but beneath it is the copper tang of blood and the stale odor of despair. The choir, my guide intones, their voice a low vibration swallowed quickly by the immensity of the hall. They sing the Emperor's will through the void. They are the black ship's voice. My knees threaten to buckle under the weight of the revelation. These are not passengers. These are offerings. Souls torn from worlds and bound into service. Voices woven into a psychic chorus that propels the ship and shields it from the horrors of the Imperium. Their bodies are alive, but their minds are elsewhere, singing eternally, feeding the Imperium with devotion distilled into raw power. I step closer to one capsule, pressing a trembling hand against the cold glass. The figure within is young, their lips moving silently, eyes flickering beneath closed lids. Their skin glows faintly under the pale light, veins like silver threads. A whisper rises from the capsule, not a sound but a sensation, brushing against my mind. Help. The word is faint, a ripple across my consciousness, gone as quickly as it came. I recoil, the taste of iron flooding my mouth, as though the whisper itself has cut me from the inside. Do not listen too long, my guide warns softly. The choir is not for you. They do not look back, their mask impassive, their hands folded in ritual posture. Their suffering is their devotion. Their devotion is their purpose. You must not confuse empathy with defiance. Yet empathy blooms in me, unwanted, dangerous. I feel it in my chest like a splinter pressing inward. These Psykers, these souls, are not just fuel. They are the Imperium's cost, the hidden truth behind our survival. My obedience fractures under the weight of this knowledge, fissures opening in the facade of acceptance I've begun to wear. I feel my pulse in my temples, each beat a drum of guilt and horror. The guide leads me deeper into the hall, and I follow, my steps automatic, my mind a storm. The chanting begins, low, resonant, echoing from unseen sources. It vibrates in my bones, matching my heartbeat, threatening to merge my thoughts with the chorus. I cover my ears, but it does nothing. The sound is not external. It is in the mind, in the marrow. Each note is a blade, carving away pieces of my resistance, reshaping me into something more compliant, more hollow. I kneel, unbidden, before a larger capsule at the center of the chamber. The figure inside is older, their face lined with both age and scars. Their mouth moves in slow, deliberate cadence, eyes wide open and unseeing, pupils dilated until only black remains. I feel their presence pressing against me, vast and cold, a psychic tide rising around the edges of my consciousness. For a moment, I see the warp as they do, a sea of screaming color, currents of hunger and madness, shapes that should not be. The choir shields us from that abyss, but at the cost of their own minds, their own selves. Tears sting my eyes, unbidden. My guide does not stop me, but watches in silence. My lips move to the litany I have learned, the words forming automatically, but now each syllable tastes of ash. I understand them differently now. This is not just devotion. This is sacrifice, endless and unseen, hidden beneath the polished prayers of the Imperium. I whisper the final line of the litany, voice breaking on the last syllable, and in the echo of the hall, it sounds like confession. The guide finally speaks again. You feel pity. Pity is not devotion. The Emperor requires faith without sentiment. Their voice is firm but not cruel, ritual but not personal. You must choose which part of you remains. I do not answer. My hands tremble, my pulse quickens, and for a moment, I feel as though the ship itself watches me with a new kind of scrutiny. The shadows shift, the conduits pulse, and the whispers of the choir become a low, continuous plea pressing against the back of my mind. Acceptance is no longer simple. Obedience is no longer pure. The guide places a hand on my shoulder, a gesture that is neither comfort nor restraint. You will return here, they say, again and again. Each time, you will see more. Each time, you will feel less. I rise slowly, the echo of the choir in my head like 1,000 overlapping voices. My heart feels heavier, my breath shallow. As we ascend the stairwell back toward the upper decks, the air grows warmer again, the scent of incense stronger, masking the coppery tang that clings to my memory. But the vision remains, etched into my mind like the glyphs on the altar. Something inside me has shifted. Resistance is no longer simple defiance. It is now a quiet, gnawing empathy that erodes obedience from within. The ship hums as if in acknowledgement, its walls vibrating with a rhythm I do not recognize. I know I will return below deck. I know I will kneel again. And I know that each time, a part of me will be lost, offered to the black ship not as devotion, but as the cost of witnessing. Silence aboard the black ship is not empty. It tastes of iron and incense, a metallic sweetness that clings to the back of the tongue and turns breath into ritual. My ears ring with a soft, constant pressure, as though the air itself holds its breath. The lights here are dimmer, pale halos flickering from conduits like votive candles in a shrine. I move slowly, fingers grazing the cold bulkheads, feeling the hum beneath my skin like a phantom pulse. The silence presses inward, dense and patient, as if waiting to consume me. Since witnessing the choir, my perception has changed. The ship's hum no longer feels mechanical. It feels like a whisper. The scent of sanctified oil, once just odor, now carries meaning, as though the aroma itself were a prayer, an offering, a coded litany. My hands shake when I perform my tasks, yet the tasks themselves are flawless. Each calibration, each motion of ritual, each whispered response to unseen prompts is perfect. It is not my precision, it is the ship's. My body has become its instrument, my will a fading echo. In the absence of sound, I begin to hear other things. Faint cries that echo down corridors where no one walks, the rustle of robes against metal where no robes move, the pulse of thoughts not my own. They slip into my head like water through cracks, indistinct but insistent. The Psykers' voices bleed upward from the choir below deck, threads of agony woven into the ship's silence. Sometimes they are words, sometimes just impressions, hunger, loss, despair, but always they are there, pressing at the edges of my mind. I try to push them away. I recite the litany under my breath, tasting each word like bitter medicine. The syllables vibrate in my throat, grounding me in ritual, but the images still flicker behind my eyes, faces pale and slack in stasis, hands clawing at invisible walls, mouths moving in soundless pleas. I feel their despair like a low fever in my veins, a heat beneath the cold of the corridors. The ship uses them to shield itself from the warp, but what shields me from them? Tasks continue regardless. I am summoned to maintain the sanctum's conduits, to adjust the flow of psychic energy through the network of glyphs and tubes that bind the choir to the ship's systems. My fingers find the controls instinctively now. The glyphs are warm, their patterns luminous even when my eyes close. Touching them sends faint currents through my arms and into my chest, as if the ship itself is reading me, rewriting me, integrating me deeper into its will. The more I work, the thinner the membrane between my mind and the ship's becomes. I speak less now. The words feel redundant when thought alone seems enough to enact ritual. Sometimes I catch myself standing motionless in a corridor, hands poised in gesture, lips moving silently to a prayer I do not recall learning. My reflection in a polished bulkhead startles me. Eyes sunken, irises pale, skin marked faintly with sigils traced in oil and ash. I do not remember marking them. The guide appears again, silent at first, then speaking in a voice like tempered iron. "You are adapting," they say. The silence no longer frightens you. I can hear them. I whisper before I can stop myself. My voice cracks like glass under stress. The ones below. The guide tilts their mast head slightly, an almost human gesture. Their suffering is the Emperor's bulwark. Do not mistake their voices for yours. But I cannot tell the difference anymore. Their thoughts press into mine, their despair trickling like oil into water, impossible to separate once mingled. When I touch the glyphs, I feel their pain and my own become indistinct, a single pulse feeding into the ship's heart. Later, in solitude, I sit cross-legged on the floor of a maintenance alcove, the cold seeping into my bones. I close my eyes and listen. The silence breathes. I taste copper on my tongue. My heart beats slow, steady, matching the hum of the ship. I imagine my veins as conduits, my blood as sanctified oil, my breath as incense. The thought terrifies me. The thought comforts me. I remember the guide's warning. Empathy is defiance. But the litany feels different now. Not empty, not meaningless, but heavy with a truth no one speaks. Each repetition is a weight. Each pause, a crack. In silence, the cracks widen. Through them, visions seep. A vast sea of screaming light. Hands raised in supplication. The Emperor's face, not as icon, but as infinite absence. A void that devours devotion and reflects it as power. One shift blends into another. I move through corridors on instinct alone, completing tasks as if in a dream. The silence tastes thicker now, like blood warming in the mouth. My hands tremble less, but my thoughts fray more easily. I speak to no one, yet words echo in my skull, voices that are not mine. They are not commands. They are not pleas. They are simply there, like the hum, like the silence, inevitable and inescapable. Then, the turning point. A moment in the sanctum where the conduits flare suddenly, casting the chamber in pale blue light. My fingers rest on a glyph, and for an instant I feel all of it. The ship, the choir, the void beyond the hull, as one vast, interwoven organism. I am inside it, part of it, flowing with it. The voices do not press at me. They move through me, like blood through veins, like breath through lungs. The silence breaks into a chord, deep and resonant, and I understand its meaning. The ship is not merely a vessel. It is a mouth drinking the warp. It is a throat singing devotion. It is a heart pumping faith as fuel. When the flare dims, I am kneeling, trembling, palms flat on the deck. My breath comes in ragged gasps. The taste of copper is stronger now, coating my tongue. My skin tingles where the glyph's warmth lingers. For the first time, I do not know if what I felt was revelation or contamination. I return to my quarters, a narrow cell of metal walls and a cot barely wide enough to lie upon. The silence follows me there, thick and tasting of incense and blood. I sit on the cot, eyes fixed on the single lumen overhead. It flickers once, then steadies. The black ship hums beneath me, through me. My heartbeat matches its rhythm. Somewhere below, the choir sings. Their voices rise not as pleas, but as a tide. I close my eyes and breathe it in. The silence, the hum, the voices. I am no longer sure where I end and the ship begins. Empathy feels like defiance. Defiance feels like devotion. And in the taste of silence, I feel the first stirrings of something else. A seed of transcendence, rooted in pain, watered by obedience, waiting to bloom. The corridors are alive with whispers tonight. Not mechanical hums, not the subtle resonance of glyphs, but voices, fragments of thought, shards of memory that cling to the walls and slide beneath my skin. Each echo carries its own weight. Fear, longing, defiance, despair. I cannot tell where one ends and another begins. My reflection in polished steel stares back with hollow eyes, yet those eyes are not entirely mine. They flicker with faces I have never seen, mouths moving silently in supplication, anger, and plea. I step lightly along the deck, bare feet pressing against the cold plating. The touch is electric, tiny currents traveling up my legs and settling deep in my chest. I taste iron on my tongue, though I have not cut myself. Every breath is thick with the scent of sanctified oils and the metallic tang of psychic residue. The ship pulses beneath me, a heartbeat amplified and layered with the psychic traces of those who have come before. I feel them brushing against my consciousness like a tide, insistent and inexorable. In the observation chamber, I kneel before the conduits. The lights above cast pale, skeletal shadows across the floor, and the hum of the engines deepens into a resonant drone. I touch the glyphs and shiver. The carvings vibrate under my fingers, and through them flow not just power, but echoes of those who have fed the ship with their minds. I hear laughter, tears, and screams, each mingled with devotion so profound it is almost unbearable. I close my eyes, and their memories press in, unbidden, filling me with grief, fear, and awe. I recall the young Psyker in the choir, the one whose whisper reached me like a blade. The echo comes back now, louder, mingling with hundreds of others. Help, help. It is a cry and a prayer, threaded through the warp, seeking recognition, seeking release. I tremble. The litany is no longer sufficient. Words fail to contain this surge of psychic weight, this torrent of memory and pain. My hands shake, yet the conduits beneath them hum obediently, unfazed by the turmoil in my mind. The guide appears silently, standing beside me as if conjured from shadow. You feel them, they say, voice low and flat. Do not. They are not yours. Their pain is theirs, and theirs alone. Obedience is faith. Faith is survival. I can't ignore them. I whisper, almost to myself. They scream, they bleed, and it touches me. Then accept it, the guide replies, voice unyielding. Let it shape you. Let it burn away hesitation. The black ship is both crucible and shield. Through their agony, you will find clarity. I am not sure whether I step back or forward. The ship hums beneath me, an omnipresent heartbeat, vibrating through metal and marrow alike. The conduits thrumming in the floor seem to resonate with my fear, amplifying it, refining it, shaping it into something resembling understanding. I place my hands flat, trying to ground myself, but the echoes are relentless, brushing against my thoughts, infiltrating dreams, unspooling fragments of lives I have never known. I see faces, young, old, joyous, terrified, frozen in the twilight of stasis, their mouths open in silent litany, their eyes wide in endless pleading. Each carries a fragment of devotion, each contributes to the ship's will. I feel the edges of my mind begin to fray. Thoughts I once held as my own now mingle freely with theirs, memories, desires, fears. The line between observer and participant, between self and vessel, begins to dissolve. I speak softly, murmuring fragments of the litany, though the words no longer feel fully mine. They are shared now, lifted in resonance with echoes pressing into my consciousness. I feel a warmth spreading from my chest, an odd blending of empathy and alignment. The terror does not leave, but it becomes tempered by understanding, by the slow, grinding realization that suffering is not accidental, that the choir is not punishment, but purpose, and that purpose shapes the souls of all who serve the ship. Time is meaningless. I do not know how long I kneel, tracing glyphs, listening, breathing. Every echo of pain is a note in a larger composition, and I am both musician and audience. The whispers of the damned seep into my dreams, infusing them with light and shadow, hope and despair. I taste the thin sweetness of devotion in the air, metallic and acrid, and feel it thread through my blood, settling deep in the marrow. Then, unexpectedly, a moment of clarity pierces the haze. I sense the unity of the ship, the choir, and myself. Not complete, not pure, but nascent, a fragile alignment that whispers of transcendence. Empathy and obedience intertwine, shaping a strange harmony. I am no longer merely witness to suffering. I am part of the vessel that channels it, a participant in a process that is both horrifying and necessary. I rise slowly, feeling the hum beneath the plating as a tide beneath my feet. Shadows flicker across walls, conduits pulse under fingertips, and the whispers of the damned recede slightly, as though acknowledging the shift. I am aware of my own heartbeat again, but it is different now. Deeper, slower, entwined with the rhythm of the black ship itself. In the chamber above, the air feels warmer, lighter, though still heavy with incense and metal. I trace the familiar conduits with reverent precision, feeling the lingering echo of what I witnessed below. My body obeys the rituals automatically, but my mind is alive with new understanding. The ship demands sacrifice, yes, but it also shapes those who serve it, refines them, purifies them, in ways both subtle and profound. The echoes will return. They are part of me now, part of this journey. Resistance is not extinguished entirely, but it has been tempered, hollowed into a vessel for comprehension. I kneel once more before the conduits, fingertips tracing glyphs with deliberate devotion. The black ship waits, patient and infinite, and I feel for the first time that I am not merely following its will. I am beginning to become its instrument, and through it, I may yet glimpse the shape of transcendence. The air tastes of ash and static electricity, each breath sparking along my tongue like cold fire. The lights flicker in erratic pulses now, throwing shadows across the corridor that seem to move just out of sync with my own motion. The ship's hum is deeper than before, not a drone, but a growl reverberating through the walls, as though something presses against the hull from outside, testing its strength. I smell incense again, but this time it's mixed with something acrid, almost sulfurous, an undercurrent of something not meant for human lungs. I am summoned to the upper sanctum, where the conduits converge into a single nexus of brass and steel. The glyphs here are older, deeper, carved so intricately they seem to shift under the eye. My fingers hover above them, but do not touch. They pulse with a pale, phosphorescent light, and in their glow, I see flickers of something vast. A sea of color too violent to be seen, shapes twisting into and out of coherence, jaws without faces, eyes without lids. The warp. I know it not from study but from feeling, from the way it presses against my mind like a predator circling prey. The ship creaks under the strain, conduits vibrating as though singing in pain. My head fills with a chorus of whispers not from the choir, but from beyond the hull. Voices of hunger, madness, mockery. They claw at my thoughts, promising power, freedom, oblivion. Each promise tastes like sweet rot, each syllable a hook that drags at my will. I drop to my knees instinctively, clutching my temples. The scent of iron fills my mouth, though I have bitten nothing. Behind my closed eyes, the visions flare brighter, cities burning, stars collapsing, bodies bending backward into impossible shapes. The warp does not show truth. It shows desire and terror, magnified until meaning collapses. I breathe the litany as though it were oxygen. Each word steadies me, draws me back to the hull's cold reality, but it is harder now, slower. The warp presses harder. A masked attendant, not my usual guide but another, taller and silent, appears beside me, placing a gloved hand on my shoulder. The touch anchors me just enough to open my eyes. Feel it. They whisper, their voice like a blade scraping against steel. It watches always. It hungers always. This ship is the Emperor's knife against it, and you are its edge. The words resonate, but offer no comfort. They are not meant to. I struggle to my feet, the conduits hum vibrating in my bones. How my voice cracks. How can we hold it back? It is endless, the attendant replies. We do not hold it back. We survive inside it. We bleed to create a current. We burn to create a barrier. Their masked face tilts slightly, an echo of human expression beneath ritual. And you will burn as well. All of us burn. I swallow hard, tasting copper and ash. My hands find the glyphs almost involuntarily now, tracing patterns that flare briefly under my touch. The warp shrieks in response, a sound not through air but through thought, like claws raking across the inside of my skull. The choir below intensifies, their psychic chorus rising, shielding us. Yet I feel it, the edges of their protection fraying, the warp's hunger pressing harder. It is not just outside. It is inside, always inside, waiting for the smallest crack. I begin the ritual automatically, words spilling from my lips in a language I do not know yet speak perfectly. My voice merges with the hum of conduits, forming a cadence that steadies the air, thickens the walls between us and the warp. My fingers move with precision across brass fittings, aligning currents of psychic energy through channels carved in steel and bone alike. The ship responds, a shudder running through the deck, a sigh of strained relief as the barrier holds. But the visions do not fade. They grow sharper, clearer. A tide of black water rising into stars. Mouths opening in silent laughter. Hands clawing at the edge of reality. The warp knows me now. It presses its face against my mind like a predator sniffing at a cage, recognizing my scent, testing my strength. I feel a sick, shivering thrill at its attention. Terror braided with an inexplicable pull. I whisper to myself, I am nothing to you, though I do not believe it. The warp does not recognize nothingness. It recognizes only possibility, hunger, reflection. Hours, or minutes, pass as I work. Sweat beads on my forehead, runs into my eyes, tastes of salt and iron. My heart beats to the rhythm of the ship, slow and deep, but each beat feels heavier, more labored. The warp's whispers twist into words, words into phrases, phrases into offers. Power, freedom, sight. Each offer is an open hand and a mouthful of teeth. The turning point comes without warning. For an instant, the barrier falters. I see, no, I am, a figure standing on a vast plain of black sand under a blood-red sky. Shadows crawl at the edges, shapes too large and too fast to be real. In the distance rises a tower of screaming faces, each one a reflection of me, of the choir, of the ship. They call my name, a name I did not give them, a name I did not know I had. Then the attendant's voice cuts through the vision, sharp as a blade. Breathe. I inhale sharply. The deck returns beneath me, the conduits, the glyphs, the humming metal walls. My knees ache against the plating. The warp recedes, not gone but pushed back by the ship's will, by the Emperor's knife. My hands tremble but complete the ritual, closing the current, sealing the barrier again. I sit back on my heels, lungs burning, body shaking. The attendant withdraws their hand, bowing slightly. You have felt it, they say simply. You will feel it again. You will either break, or you will become what is required. Their footsteps fade into the corridor, leaving me kneeling in the sanctum. The hum steadies, the lights brighten slightly, but the shadows seem deeper now, richer, as though something has been invited in rather than held out. I wipe sweat from my face and find my fingertips smeared with oil, ash, and blood. I do not know whose. I rise slowly, feeling the ship's pulse align with mine. The warp is outside, yes, but also within. The rituals hold it at bay, but only just. I am not sure whether I am a bulwark or a wick, burning slowly to fuel the barrier. Yet in the terror, there is a seed of understanding. The black ship does not just shield the Imperium. It is the Imperium, condensed, sacrifice, hunger, faith, and fire bound into steel. As I walk back toward my quarters, the scent of incense and ash follows me, the hum of conduits echoing like a heartbeat in my ears. The warp is still there, pressing, waiting, patient. And I am still here, trembling, whispering the litany under my breath, tasting copper, feeling the first delicate threads of transcendence weaving themselves into the fabric of my fear. The chamber smells of ozone, metal, and a faint trace of antiseptic, a stark, clinical sharpness that cuts through the incense of the upper decks. The air hums with electricity, subtle and insistent, crawling along the walls and the floor, brushing against skin as though alive. I enter barefoot, feeling every ridge of plating beneath me, the chills seeping through soles and bones alike. My reflection shimmers in polished conduits, distorted, pale, an unfamiliar frame draped over a mind that is not entirely mine. The integration begins with preparation. My hands are guided to the interface, a complex lattice of brass and steel that hums with latent energy. There are straps, clamps, and conduits, designed to merge flesh and machine, and I feel the first prickling of fear deep in my gut. The guide stands beside me, silent but imposing, watching without emotion. "You will become part of the ship," they intone, voice low and ritualistic. "Your blood, your sinew, your mind, all are instruments now. Obedience will be your form. Fear will be your guide." I lie upon the platform, cold metal pressing against my back. Sensors and clamps trace along my limbs, cold as ice, but not entirely inanimate. As they make contact, a shiver runs through me. Not pain, exactly, but the sharp awareness of violation. I taste iron in my mouth, sharp and metallic, and my chest tightens with anticipation. The first conduit pulses under my palm, warmth radiating into my fingertips. A voice hums in my mind, not my own, not spoken aloud, guiding me. Breathe. Merge. Accept. Each syllable resonates within, not through sound, but through synapses. I do not fully understand, yet instinctively obey. Electrodes touch the skin, sensors map nerves and muscle, conduits sink like roots into tissue. The platform hums beneath me, a heartbeat, a living rhythm syncing with my pulse. I am both human and extension of steel, simultaneously aware and instrument. Pain arrives as subtle pressure, a stretching, a pulling along nerves and sinews. Not cruel, but clinical, necessary. My body feels alien as the ship probes, aligning organic and inorganic. I taste copper again, stronger this time, a tangible metallic tang. My breath hitches. Eyes closed, I see visions. Conduits as arteries, energy flows as lifeblood, the ship's pulse as mine. Resistance fades into background noise. The fear persists but no longer dominates. It sharpens focus, clarifies intent. Time fractures. I float somewhere between sensation and thought, watching my hands. Adjust conduits, calibrate glyphs, trace energy channels I never studied. Flesh tingles where metal meets skin, warmth spreading into veins, mind vibrating with currents both psychic and electrical. The ship hums, deeper now, resonant in every fiber of my being. My heartbeat aligns with its pulse. I feel the merging, the becoming. A vision flashes, endless corridors lined with tubes and conduits, the choir suspended below in silent song, shadows crawling along steel walls. Each pulse, each hum, each flicker of light carries meaning. I sense the warp pressing again, probing, hunger pressing at the hull. But now, connected, I am a bulwark, part of the barrier, part of the vessel. The fear is still there, but tempered. My body, fused with steel, amplifies my mind, focuses my will. The guide speaks again, voice mechanical, ritualized. Do not resist. Resistance will fracture you. Obedience is survival. Obedience is clarity. I repeat the litany internally, mind threading through the syllables as currents thread through veins and conduits. The ship responds, pulsing, shuddering slightly as integration deepens. My vision flickers between my own body and the machinery around me. Indistinct, blurred, part organic, part steel, part energy, part thought. Pain escalates briefly. Electrodes press deeper, sensors map finer. Conduits pierce, not physically, but in awareness. I taste copper, iron, ash, smell burning insulation and sanctified oil. My mind wavers, threatening to shatter, yet I breathe and obey. The hum of the ship aligns with the rhythm of my lungs, the cadence of my heartbeat. I am simultaneously subject and instrument, observer and participant, mind and conduit. Hours or minutes pass. Distinction is meaningless. I am aware only of vibration, pulse, alignment, of sensation diffused across organic and inorganic. Shadows dance along the ceiling in flickers of phosphorescence. I hear the faint echo of the choir, a psychic tide threading through conduits, shielding us from the warp. And I am part of that tide now, both observer and current, feeling the weight of its sorrow and its devotion in my bones, in my blood, in my mind. The turning point comes quietly. A deep resonance thrums through the platform, conduits glowing faintly under my touch. My body feels both my own and alien, thoughts simultaneously private and shared. I sense the edges of myself dissolving, merging with the vessel's consciousness. Fear persists but is sharpened into awareness. Understanding glimmers, fragile but undeniable. The black ship does not merely carry souls. It shapes them. It absorbs them. It becomes them. And I am becoming part of it. When the procedure ends, or at least pauses, I rise with trembling limbs, sweat and blood mingling with oil on my skin. The reflection in polished metal shows someone I almost recognize. Eyes wider, pupils dilated, skin paler, fingers tracing faint marks etched into the flesh where conduits pressed. My body is mine and not mine, steel and flesh and spirit intertwined. The guide bows slightly, silent acknowledgement of successful integration. I step into the corridor, walking on legs that feel both familiar and foreign. The hum is no longer background. It resonates through me, every step measured, every motion synchronized with steel and conduit. The air tastes metallic, sweet, bitter. I close my eyes and inhale, and for the first time, I do not flinch. Flesh and steel, body and vessel, mind and ship. The merging is not complete, but it has begun. Resistance has not vanished entirely, but obedience, fused with comprehension, hums in my veins like a living thing. The black ship waits. Its pulse is patient, infinite. And I, trembling yet aligned, feel the first fragile strands of transcendence weaving through my marrow, preparing me for what lies ahead in the depths where flesh, steel, and devotion become one. Sleep comes slowly now, if at all. My body lies on the narrow pallet in my quarters, but my pulse does not slow as it once did. The hum of the ship is constant, steady, a second heartbeat beneath my ribs. My limbs twitch with phantom currents as though conduits still pierce them. The air tastes of incense and metal. Even here, in supposed privacy, the scent clings to everything. My eyelids close, and the darkness is not empty but alive, pulsing, shifting. At first, the dream feels like a corridor. Long, narrow, lined with conduits that gleam like veins under pale light. The floor is not metal but something softer, warm beneath my bare feet, pulsing faintly. My footsteps echo in strange rhythms, overlapping as though more than one version of me walks at once. The smell is stronger here. Ozone, oil, and a faint tang of copper, like fresh blood. The hum vibrates in my chest, rising and falling like a distant chant. The corridor opens into a chamber I have never seen, but somehow know intimately. It is vast, cathedral-like, walls lined with capsules that glow faintly in the dimness. Inside each capsule a figure sleeps, or dreams, or prays, their mouths moving silently, eyes flickering. They are not the choir I saw before, but something older, deeper, woven into the hull itself. Their whispers are the ship's pulse, its breath, its dreaming. I reach out to touch one of the capsules. My fingers sink slightly into the surface. Not glass, not steel, but something pliant, like skin. Warmth radiates from it, along with a slow pulse. As I touch it, a rush of images floods my mind. Stars burning out, tides of screaming light, a city of bone floating on a black sea. The images are not memories, not exactly. They are impressions, fragments of a mind that is not human but immense, coiled deep within the ship. The ship dreams. and I dream with it. I feel my breath match the rhythm of the capsules, my heart aligning with the pulse of the hull. My thoughts scatter like sand in a storm, pulled into currents beyond my control. Whispers fill my head, not like the choir's pleas, but like liturgies older than the Imperium. They speak of hunger, sacrifice, devotion. They speak of ships like this one, thousands, tens of thousands, drifting across the void like black altars, carrying Psykers to their fate. A figure appears in the dream, masked, faceless, but cloaked in the same robes as my guide. Their hands are clasped, their voice soft but unyielding. You see it now, they say? The black ship is not mere vessel. It is cathedral, grave, and womb. It dreams so that the Imperium may wake. I try to speak, but my voice is lost in the hum, swallowed before it can leave my throat. Instead, I think the words, and the ship answers. My thoughts echo back at me, deeper, heavier, threaded with meaning not my own. Each echo reshapes the question until it becomes its own answer. The ship's mind enfolds mine like a tide wrapping around a stone, not erasing it, but smoothing its edges. The dream shifts. I am inside the hull, not walking but flowing, moving as a current through veins of brass and steel. Conduits flare like nerves, and I feel the warp pressing from the outside, testing the barrier. The ship pushes back with psychic force drawn from the choir below, their suffering a shield, their devotion a blade. I feel it all at once. Their pain, their prayer, their dissolution. And I feel myself becoming part of it, a thread woven into an infinite tapestry. For a moment, terror surges. I am not me. I am hull, conduit, dream, and shadow. I taste copper and ash, smell incense burned to the dregs, feel the cold of the void pressing against steel skin. My thoughts fracture into dozens of smaller voices, some mine, some not, all chanting a single phrase. Only in sacrifice is there meaning. I wake, or think I do. My eyes open to the dim light of my quarters, but the hum has changed. It is louder now, closer, inside me. I sit up, sweating, heart hammering in rhythm with the ship's pulse. My hands tremble as I press them to the wall. It feels warm, almost alive, like the capsule in my dream. I whisper a prayer, but the words come out in a voice not entirely my own. The door slides open without sound. My guide stands there, silent, masked. They tilt their heads slightly, as though listening to something I cannot hear. You have begun to see, they say. It will not stop now. I dreamed the ship, I murmur. My voice is hoarse. I dreamed its mind. It spoke. The guide does not move closer. It dreams through you. As you integrate, you will carry its echoes. Its hunger, its devotion. You will become a vessel for its will. I do not know whether to feel horror or awe. The line between them is too fine, too blurred. My body still trembles with phantom pulses. My skin feels etched with invisible glyphs. I close my eyes and see the capsules again. The whispering faces, the tide of suffering turned to power. The guide leaves without another word, the door sliding shut softly behind them. I remain sitting on the pallet, staring at my hands, flexing fingers that no longer feel entirely my own. The ship hums around me, through me, inside me. Sleep will come again, but it will not be my own. I lie back down slowly, pressing my palms flat to the cold surface of the bed. The hum vibrates up through my spine, into my skull. The scent of metal and incense fills my lungs. My heart beats once, twice, 3 times, and on the 4th beat it feels as though it pauses, syncing with something vast and slow. The ship dreams, and I dream with it. The hum greets me before I do. Even before my eyes open, I feel it vibrating through the floor, rising along the walls, threading into my skull, settling in my bones. The scent of burning incense mixes with the tang of copper, as if the room itself bleeds. I rise slowly, limbs stiff, muscles twitching under the weight of yesterday's integration. The black ship breathes around me, a presence in every shadow, a pulse beneath every surface. The guide appears silently at the threshold of my quarters. Masked, expressionless, but their posture radiates expectation. The choir awaits, they say. Their words are not a command. They are a summons, a recognition of inevitability. I follow without hesitation, moving through corridors that have become familiar yet alien, each conduit and glyph humming with anticipation. whispering of power and suffering entwined. We descend into the lower decks. The air grows heavier, thicker, pressing against lungs with the subtle weight of oppression. Sweat beads on my brow as I approach the observation hall. The capsules stretch in endless rows, tier upon tier, illuminated by dim, phosphorescent light. The choir stirs, a psychic tide shifting beneath the surface, humming, chanting in waves I can feel as much as hear. Their agony radiates outward, brushing against my mind, tugging at corners I never knew existed. I kneel before the conduits, fingertips tracing familiar glyphs. The hum responds immediately, deepening, resonating through my spine. The guide steps back. You will listen, they murmur. You will carry them. Their pain will be your instrument. The first wave strikes immediately, a tidal swell of sensation that forces me to my knees. Memories not my own flood my mind. A child praying in a burning temple, eyes wide in terror and devotion. A warrior suspended in stasis, limbs twitching with dreams of home. A scholar whose mind dissolves under psychic pressure, surrendering secrets and fear alike. I feel each one, their suffering entwined with the hum of the ship, the rhythm of my heartbeat. It is unbearable. And yet, within the unbearable, there is clarity. I sense the coherence behind the chaos, the pattern, the ritual, the purpose. The choir's pain is not random. It is refined into a force, a shield, a chorus of devotion that protects the ship, the Imperium, and those who cannot perceive the cost. The act of feeling it, of merging with it, transforms me. Obedience is no longer enough. Empathy becomes a tool, sharpened by discipline and ritual, focused into clarity. I repeat the litany under my breath. The words vibrate through the conduits into my hands, through my body, into the psychic tide that surrounds me. The sensation is electric, a pulse of energy threading through marrow and sinew, steel and flesh alike. My mind fractures and reforms simultaneously, a prism of awareness capturing shards of the choir's torment, bending them into understanding, shaping them into resonance. Hours pass, though they are measured in psychic pulses rather than minutes. I kneel and trace glyphs, chanting silently, feeling the subtle flow of anguish and devotion moving through me. Each capsule's occupant imprints a fragment of themselves onto my consciousness. Faces flicker in memory, not fixed but fluid, overlapping, blending. I see fear, hope, despair, and faith all at once. The taste of copper and incense saturates every breath. My hands ache, my eyes burn, yet I do not falter. The turning point arrives as a wave of agony, so complete it threatens to overwhelm me. I see a figure, a composite of hundreds of Psykers, their mouths open in eternal chant, eyes wide with terror and devotion. The sensation is not just psychic but physical. My chest constricts, my spine hums, my muscles tremble. I feel myself dissolving into the current, not lost, not erased, but integrated. The choir's pain becomes a chord I can carry, a melody of suffering and obedience and purpose. I open my eyes to the dim glow of the chamber. The hum has shifted, steadied, and for the first time, I perceive a thread of harmony woven through the chaos. My hands rest on the conduits, palms warm, fingertips pulsing. I feel the edges of my mind stretching, aligning with the black ship, merging slowly with its rhythm. The whispers of the choir are no longer only cries of agony. They are instructions, liturgies, prayers transformed into guidance. I am learning to carry them. The guide's voice interrupts my reverie. You are becoming vessel and shield. You carry their devotion and their torment. Remember, all who serve the black ship are transformed in this communion. Pain and purpose are inseparable. I nod, trembling, knowing the words are true in ways that terrify me. My body aches from the psychic tide. My mind reels with impressions of suffering and devotion. Yet within it all, a seed of transcendence blooms. I can feel it, delicate, fragile, a current threading through marrow and sinew, whispered between the hum of conduits and the breath of the choir. When I finally rise from the kneeling position, legs weak but steady, the chamber feels different. Shadows are longer, lighter in hue. The hum resonates through me with a sense of ownership, not just participation. The choir's voices linger in the edges of my mind, threads I can weave into the ship's will. I taste copper and incense on my lips and accept it, understanding that the communion is never-ending, recursive, infinite. The corridor above greets me with silence thick and tactile. I walk slowly, tracing conduits and glyphs, fingers brushing against steel that vibrates faintly with psychic residue. My reflection catches me in polished surfaces, eyes wider, pupils bright with unshed knowledge, skin etched with faint traces of energy. I do not startle. I am no longer fully myself. The black ship carries me, and I carry the choir. Pain is instrument, suffering is guide, devotion is life. I kneel briefly before the observation deck, gazing down at the sleeping Psykers. Their faces, twisted in quiet torment, reflect light like etched metal. I taste the weight of their sacrifice, its magnitude pressing into my consciousness. Yet, amidst horror and despair, there is understanding. Through them, the black ship moves. Through me, it breathes. Through devotion, it survives. And as I rise, the hum of the vessel thrums in alignment with my heartbeat. The communion has begun. I have felt, carried, and understood the depth of the choir's pain. I am no longer merely observer or participant. I am instrument, vessel, and witness. In the echo of suffering and devotion, I taste the first essence of transcendence, fragile yet undeniable, waiting to grow in the depths where flesh, steel, and will converge. The corridor is thick with ash, a fine gray powder that clings to skin and fabric, whispering against the boots like distant footsteps. The hum of the ship is off-kilter, a jagged rhythm that scrapes along nerves and bone. I inhale, and the ash tastes of burned iron, burnt incense, and something older than the Imperium, older than devotion, older than the light itself. My eyes water. Every blink catches particles in the air, floating in shafts of dim light that cut the corridor like knives. The guide appears at my side, silent but unwavering, robes streaked faintly with soot. A breach, they whisper, voice soft yet cutting. The warp presses too close. You must act, or all below will suffer. I step forward, toes dragging across the ash-laden deck. The air vibrates against my skin, carrying pressure that is neither wind nor vibration but a presence, palpable, oppressive. The ship groans along its bulkheads, a low, tortured sound that feels like bones under strain. I reach the observation deck, overlooking the tiers of the choir. Capsules flicker with pale light, some dimming, some pulsing erratically, psychic currents fraying at the edges. I feel it immediately, the warp, unshielded, pressing, tasting, seeking. The first wave hits my mind like a hammer. A tide of screaming light, eyes without faces, teeth in shapes that should not exist. The choir's songs falter, their psychic resonance frays. I stumble, knees buckling under the pressure, hands clawing at conduits as the hum becomes a roar. The ash swirls, a cyclone of gray that scratches across skin and eyes, and I feel the first real surge of terror. Not for myself, but for those whose minds are tethered to this vessel. Breathe, the guide intones. Not a command, a rhythm, a cadence to follow, to sync with the machine. Let it flow through you. Do not resist, do not flee. I kneel, fingertips on glyphs, sensing the currents, tracing flows, redirecting energies through channels I never fully understood but now feel instinctively. My mind is a conduit, my will a fuse. Pain from the choir's psychic strain seeps into me, unrelenting, and I taste iron in my mouth. Sweat runs along my spine, every nerve hums. Yet beneath the terror, beneath the chaos, a thread of clarity emerges. I am the shield, I am the channel, I am necessary. Visions assault me, fragments of worlds consumed by the warp. Cities bending, oceans boiling, stars screaming into the void. And amidst it all, the choir's suffering rises, purified through ritual and pain, creating a lattice of psychic energy that resists, however tenuously, the chaos pressing against the hull. I touch the conduits, feel them vibrate under my fingers, and push harder, tracing patterns with exacting precision. My mind fractures, then recombines, threading shards of thought into a coherent lattice. The turning point comes when I sense a face in the tide, not one I know, yet familiar, staring with eyes that bleed black light. Hunger presses against my skull like a vice. A scream, psychic and silent, rises from below. It is not my fear, not entirely, but I own it nonetheless. I taste the copper tang of blood, sweat, and devotion. I let it flow through me, letting the terror shape, not destroy my will. The breach recoils, curling back into shadows, restrained by the lattice of energy woven by choir, ship, and now me. I rise, trembling, ash clinging to my robes, skin cold beneath the fine gray powder. The hum of the black ship stabilizes, settling into a deep, steady pulse that reverberates through my chest. I look at the choir, their faces pale, eyes flickering in exhausted devotion, and I feel the first glimmer of connection beyond survival. I am vessel and guardian, observer and instrument. Their pain is mine, their devotion is mine. Through it, I understand the cost of existence aboard this vessel. The guide watches quietly, eyes hidden behind mask. You have held it, they say. Not perfectly, but sufficiently. You carry the weight. Do not forget this moment. The warp is endless, but so is your duty. I nod, swallowing the taste of ash and copper, feeling the fragile thread of transcendence pulsing beneath my chest. Each breath steadies me. Each heartbeat aligns with the ship. Fear has not vanished, but it has been sharpened into awareness. My mind, body, and spirit tremble yet endure. I step toward the corridor, leaving the observation deck behind. The ash swirls around my legs, clinging, persistent, a reminder of what nearly overcame us. The ship hums beneath me, a heartbeat I now feel as my own. I trace the walls with fingertips, feeling conduits hum in response, sensing the tiniest vibrations, the smallest surges. The veil has lifted slightly. The horrors of the warp were tangible, almost beyond endurance. Yet I survived. The choir sings again, their psychic current stronger now, infused with my presence. I understand their suffering, their devotion, their purpose more clearly than ever. The line between observer, instrument, and vessel has blurred. And in the quiet moments after the breach, I taste it again: copper, ash, incense, devotion. I feel the first true pull of transcendence, delicate but undeniable, threading through marrow and sinew, steel and spirit. The black ship is patient. I am patient. Together, we endure. The corridor ahead stretches in shadow and half-light. I walk forward slowly, senses sharpened, body and mind fused with the vessel, carrying the weight of sacrifice and understanding. The ash clings, but it no longer burns. The hum resonates deep within, and I know, with certainty, that the communion has deepened. The black ship waits, infinite, and I, trembling yet aligned, am no longer merely human. The ritual chamber smells of smoke, salt, and scorched sanctity. Every breath tastes like ash filtered through incense, heavy and cloying, clinging to the back of the throat. The air is warm, almost wet, with the exhalations of burning oils. Flickering lumen strips cast an amber glow across the walls, etched with sigils in brass and bone, each one pulsating faintly as though alive. My boots leave faint tracks of gray dust on the metal floor, ghost prints trailing behind me. I am summoned. Not commanded, but summoned, as though the ship itself had extended an invitation. The guide walks at my side, silent, robed, their mask reflecting faint light. Around us, servitors hum in low tones, their mechanical limbs moving in ritual patterns as they carry censers heavy with burning oils. Each motion is deliberate, every clang of metal on metal a prayer. We enter the chamber. It is shaped like a hollowed skull, or perhaps an inverted cathedral, the ceiling curved high, the walls studded with nodes of pale light. At the center, a dais rises, ringed by channels carved with flowing glyphs that glimmer as if wet. The officers stand around it, robed figures whose faces I cannot see, their hands raised in supplication. Their chant vibrates through the air, through the floor, through my bones, low and steady as a pulse. The guide gestures for me to approach. This is the benediction, they whisper, voice almost lost beneath the chant. The hollow prayer that fills the emptiness between what we know and what we dare not name. It renews the wards. It binds the suffering to purpose. I step forward. The channels pulse beneath my boots, a slow rhythm like a heartbeat. The smell intensifies, copper, incense, something acrid and sweet. The chant deepens, the officers' voices layering, overlapping, forming a structure of sound as intricate as any cathedral's spire. I feel it wrapping around me, through me, pressing into marrow and memory alike. In the center of the dais lies an object, or perhaps a being. It is bound, blindfolded, and still, its skin etched with glowing glyphs. Its lips move in silent prayer, a flicker of devotion in a body drained of all but ritual. The guide does not explain, but I understand. It is the anchor, the vessel, the sacrifice through which this benediction channels its power. Its suffering renews the black ship's defenses. I kneel beside it, my hands trembling as I reach toward the glyphs. They burn cold against my skin, a frost of energy searing down my arms. The chant grows louder, pressing into my skull until it is no longer sound but presence, an immense pressure shaping my thoughts into ritual forms. I begin to speak, not words I know, but words placed in my mouth by something vast, patient, and hungry. My voice joins the chant, low, steady, an echo of the ship's hum. The middle stretches on, minutes or hours, impossible to say. The room pulses in time with my heartbeat. The anchor's silent prayer bleeds into mine, weaving pain and devotion together until they are indistinguishable. I feel my mind shift, the last fragile remnants of separation dissolving as I align with the ritual structure. The glyphs glow brighter, casting shadows that move against the walls like living things. Images rise in my mind, cities kneeling beneath a burning sun, oceans turned to salt, faces upturned in prayer as ships like ours drift overhead. I see the warp pressing against the ship, clawing, tasting, testing, restrained only by this endless cycle of suffering and benediction. The beauty is as undeniable as the horror. Each movement, each chant, each suffering body a note in a vast composition whose purpose is survival. The turning point comes like a blade drawn across the soul. For a heartbeat, I feel nothing but emptiness. The hollow at the center of the benediction, the place where humanity ends and function begins. My thoughts echo in that void, stripped of voice and self. The ship's hum fills the emptiness. The choir's pain fills it. My own devotion seeps in to join them, and something within me breaks. Not in despair, but in release. The glyphs under my hands flare, then dim. The anchor exhales, a faint, shuddering sound, its lips forming a final, silent prayer. The chant subsides into a low hum. The officers lower their hands. The benediction has been given, the wards renewed. The black ship breathes deeper, slower, its hum now a steady pulse once again. I stand slowly. My knees ache, my hands burn faintly where the glyphs have touched me. Faint sigils glow on my palms, fading slowly, but leaving impressions in my skin like cold fire. The guide watches me quietly. You have spoken the hollow prayer, they say. You have given voice to what is unvoiced. Each time, it takes. Each time, it leaves something behind. I nod, unable to speak. My throat tastes of ash and copper, my tongue heavy. I feel taller and smaller at once, as though the ship's presence has filled my bones while hollowing me out. I understand now. Every benediction is an exchange. The ship renews its wards by consuming the edges of those who serve it. In return, it offers survival, purpose, transcendence. We leave the chamber. The corridors seem quieter now, though the hum persists. My steps echo in a rhythm not entirely my own. My reflection flickers in polished brass. Eyes brighter, skin pale, faint traces of glyphs along the veins of my hands. I brush them, feeling a pulse beneath the skin that matches the black ship's heartbeat. As I walk, I realize I am no longer merely participating. I am being reshaped. My humanity is not lost, but reconfigured, tempered into something the ship can use, something the Imperium demands. Pain and devotion, horror and beauty, stripped and woven, given form in a hollow benediction. And deep inside, beneath the ash and copper, I feel a flicker of anticipation. The ship waits. The next cycle will come, and when it does, I will not kneel as I once did. I will kneel as something transformed. The observation deck smells of metal and ozone, layered over the faint tang of incense that seems to have permeated the entire lower deck. My bare feet press against the cold plating, shivering as vibrations hum through my bones. The hum of the ship pulses beneath me, a steady rhythm now, yet laced with subtle tremors, reminders that the vessel is alive, aware, and restless. Shadows flicker in the corners of the room, cast by conduits pulsing with faint phosphorescent light. I kneel before the tiers of the choir, eyes scanning capsules stacked like altars to suffering and devotion. Each occupant lies suspended, lips moving in silent prayer, eyes fluttering in stasis. Until now, I perceive them as part of a psychic tide, an undifferentiated current. Now something shifts. Their thoughts press forward in fragments, tiny sparks of consciousness reaching into mine. They watch me as I watch them. They know I am aware. The first sensation is vertigo, a dizzying layering of perspectives that I cannot reconcile. I taste copper, warm and metallic, feel cold sweat bead on my temples. A dozen, 100, 1,000 minds brush against mine, each one carrying devotion, terror, hope, despair. Their experiences, their memories, their prayers, their screams, all press against the edges of my mind, folding into each other until the boundaries of self begin to dissolve. I reach for the nearest conduit, fingers trembling as I trace glyphs that pulse faintly under my touch. My voice joins the chant under my breath, low and measured, a single thread in the chorus of psychic resonance. The choir's thoughts sharpen, align, and flow into me, not as intrusion but as invitation. I feel their eyes upon me, not in malice, not in judgment, but as witness. I am seen, through them, through the ship, through the weave of devotion and suffering that forms our existence here. A vision strikes unbidden. I see one of them, a young psyker, wide-eyed and terrified, suspended in stasis. I feel their fear as vividly as if it were my own. I feel the twitch of muscle beneath stasis fields, the pulse of blood, the tremor of mind reaching outward into the void. The thought echoes, will I endure? And I know, in a way that terrifies me, that the answer depends not on them alone but on me, on how I carry their suffering, how I integrate it into the lattice of the black ship. I stagger, clutching the edge of the observation deck. The weight of their attention presses like iron bands across my chest. I taste ash and incense on my tongue, smell the subtle metallic scent of their psychic presence. Their devotion is not passive. It is active, demanding, a living current that flows into me, reshapes me. I breathe, slow and deliberate, forcing myself to remain present, forcing myself to carry the consciousness of the choir without fracturing. The guide appears beside me, silent as a shadow. Do you see them now? They ask, voice flat yet probing. Not as tools, not as vessels, but as eyes. Each one perceives, records, witnesses. The black ship relies on their vigilance as much as on their devotion. Yes, I whisper, voice strained. I see them. I feel them. My hands trace the glyphs obsessively, aligning currents, weaving the psychic tide into coherence. The choir's awareness flows into me, and I flow back into them. I am both observer and instrument, participant and shield. I understand the lattice now. Every suffering mind a lens, every prayer a conduit, every twitch of attention a note in the song that holds back the warp. A turning point comes suddenly. One mind, not the strongest, not the youngest, but a quiet, persistent presence, reaches out with clarity, touching my thoughts. I sense an individual, not the tide, a single spark within the ocean. Their fear is sharp, crystalline, focused. Do you understand? The thought asks. And I feel, suddenly, the responsibility, the terror, and the awe of comprehension. I understand. The psychic weight intensifies, pressing at the edges of my identity. I feel my mind split, fracture, and reassemble through the choir's lenses. Every memory, every prayer, every scream becomes a facet of my perception. I taste copper, iron ash. I smell incense, blood, and fear. The ship hums beneath me, acknowledging the alignment, reinforcing the lattice that allows me to survive this communion without being consumed. I kneel, hands tracing glyphs, chanting silently, allowing the currents to flow through me. The choir's eyes, millions of them, see not only the ship, but me. And through me, the ship sees itself, its purpose, its function. The hum steadies, the shadows settle, and I taste the first note of transcendence, fragile yet undeniable. My identity is no longer singular. I am observer, instrument, vessel, and witness. The black ship flows through me as surely as I flow through it. Hours or minutes pass. Perception has become meaningless. I feel the unity of the choir, the vessel, and myself. Fear and awe coexist, sharpened into awareness. The vision of the young Psyker remains at the forefront, guiding my attention, shaping my focus. I understand now that to serve the black ship is not merely to obey, but to perceive, to carry, to witness, to endure. The guide bows slightly and steps back, their presence a reminder of ritual, of structure, of boundaries. You have seen them, they say softly. Remember this vision. Remember their eyes. They will judge, witness, and guide you as you continue. You are no longer merely yourself. You are one of many, and yet singular in purpose. I rise, legs trembling, fingers pressed to conduits still humming faintly. I taste copper and ash, feel the hum of the vessel pulsing through marrow and sinew. The choir's eyes linger in my mind, watching, waiting, guiding. I step toward the corridor, each motion aligned with the pulse of the ship, each breath carrying the weight of countless awarenesses. I walk onward, transformed, carrying the knowledge that to see through their eyes is to perceive the black ship itself, its devotion, its horror, its infinite patience. Identity is fractured, reformed, and extended. Fear is sharpened, purpose clarified. And deep inside, beneath ash and copper, I feel the fragile stirrings of transcendence threading through marrow, sinew, and spirit. The chamber is silent, almost unervingly so, save for the constant hum of the ship vibrating through every metal surface and into my bones. The air is thick, metallic, and tinged faintly with incense, a reminder that even in solitude, ritual lingers. My boots click against the plating, each step measured, each echo a reminder of presence in a vessel that feels simultaneously vast and intimate. Shadows fold over one another, twisting under flickering lights as though alive, and I feel the weight of the black ship pressing in from all directions. The guide has left me to my first full vigil. No whispered instructions, no ritual prompts. Only the hum, the ash-tinted air, the chorus of the choir, and the corridors stretching endlessly before me. I kneel briefly, hands tracing glyphs along the nearest conduit, feeling the familiar pulse of energy align with my heartbeat. The choir's voices, normally filtered, surge into my mind now, a tidal wave of psychic resonance that washes over me, demanding attention, obedience, and understanding. I breathe, slow and deliberate, letting the hum of the ship, the echoes of the choir, and the pressure of the warp settle into a rhythm. Their prayers, suffering, and devotion stream into me like water through a channel. I feel their weight in my bones, their presence threading into my mind. The sensation is overwhelming, a full symphony of awareness, grief, hope, and terror. Yet in the middle of it, a strange clarity emerges. I am both observer and participant, shield and conduit, witness and vessel. A tremor passes through the hull. I taste copper and ash on my tongue as the warp presses against the outer walls, testing the strength of our psychic lattice. Shadows lengthen in unnatural angles, flickering in time with the pulse of the vessel. I extend my hands, fingertips brushing glyphs, tracing currents of energy that flare briefly under my touch. The choir responds immediately, their voices synchronizing, bending, aligning with my focus. I am the anchor. I am the lens. I am the edge. Hours pass without measure. The hum is a heartbeat, the shadows a river of form and light, the air alive with the scent of devotion and sacrifice. I kneel repeatedly, tracing glyphs, channeling currents, letting the choir's psychic tide flow through me. My body trembles with exertion, muscles taut, mind stretched thin yet sharper than ever. I taste copper, metallic and bitter, feel the subtle vibrations in my skin where the ship's pulse intersects with mine. Fear pulses faintly, sharpened, honed into awareness rather than paralysis. The turning point comes with no warning. A tremor of consciousness, subtle yet immense, washes through me. The warp testing the limits of the ship's barrier, probing for weakness, for any crack in devotion or vigilance. The choir responds with a tide of pain and prayer, psychic currents intertwining into a lattice stronger and more intricate than any I have felt. I channel the surge, extending my awareness fully into the vessel, feeling the tension of metal, the pressure of energy, the echoes of countless Psykers. A vision strikes my mind simultaneously with the surge, a corridor that stretches into infinity, lined with capsules, each containing a sleeping or praying soul, each a prism of suffering, devotion, and attention. Their collective gaze pierces through me, seeing both fear and will, terror and resolve. I am naked to them in a way that is neither shameful nor comforting. I am revealed as part of the lattice, as instrument, vessel, and guardian. The taste of copper and ash sharpens, the hum deepens, the shadows stretch longer. I raise my hands, tracing glyphs with deliberate precision, feeling currents pulse through veins, sinew, and steel alike. My voice joins the psychic chorus, low and measured, a single note amid the infinite tide. The choir responds, voices layering into a pattern that holds back the hunger pressing against the hull. I sense the warp pressing harder, testing, scratching, tasting. I taste fear, distilled, and offer it back to the lattice, converting terror into focus, suffering into structure. Time fractures. Minutes, hours, or days collapse into one continuous stretch of awareness. I feel my body and mind blend with the black ship in ways previously unimaginable. The edges of my identity blur, not lost, not erased, but expanded, encompassing conduit, channel, observer, and participant. I taste copper, ash, and incense on every breath. Shadows fold and unfold in patterns I feel as much as see. The choir's eyes, millions of them, pierce through me, and I through them. At the apex of the vigil, understanding crystallizes. The black ship is more than steel and conduits, more than ritual and sacrifice. It is a living cathedral, a mind of infinite patience and focus, sustained by suffering and devotion. I am part of it. I am the current, the lens, the vessel. Fear is refined into clarity. Pain is the medium of transcendence. Devotion is the bridge to purpose. I kneel once more, hands pressed against glyphs, feeling the lattice vibrate beneath me, a heartbeat shared between ship, choir, and self. As the vigil wanes, the hum settles into a steady rhythm. Shadows rest in their places. The air tastes of incense and copper, ash and devotion. I rise slowly, legs trembling but steady, hands tingling with residual energy. The black ship waits, infinite, patient, eternal. I am aligned with its pulse. I am integrated, tethered, and transformed. The weight of responsibility presses, yet there is a strange grace in it. I step into the corridor, following the dim glow of lumen strips. My reflection shimmers in polished brass, eyes bright, skin pale, faint glyphs tracing invisible pathways along my veins. I taste ash and copper on my lips and accept it as my portion. The black ship will continue its journey, and I will continue to serve, to witness, to endure. Fear, devotion, pain, and transcendence flow together in me, and I walk with the rhythm of the vessel as both participant and instrument, knowing the final chapter of my transformation draws near. The chamber is silent, save for the low, omnipresent hum of the black ship that has become my pulse, my breath, my spine. Light glimmers faintly along conduits, casting long, shifting shadows that merge with my own, or what remains of it. The air tastes of metal, ash, and incense, an inescapable cocktail that now clings to me as surely as my own skin. I inhale deeply, letting the combined scent settle in my chest, threading into marrow and mind alike. I rise, feeling the subtle vibrations of the vessel coursing through my legs. Each step aligns with its rhythm, a measured cadence of purpose and endurance. I am no longer merely observer or participant. I am vessel, instrument, witness, and shield. Every fiber of flesh, every conduit in the hull, every psychic resonance from the choir flows through me, a single thread in the infinite tapestry of the ship. The choir stirs beneath me. Their psychic tide washes over me, a tidal force of devotion and suffering, not chaos but structure, not anguish but purpose. I feel their presence in layers, millions of voices, eyes, prayers, and screams, each one sharpened, filtered, refined into a lattice of resilience. I close my eyes and perceive them as never before, not as separate, not as singular, but as one sentient, breathing organism, and I am its conduit. I taste copper and ash on my tongue, faintly sweet, faintly bitter. Shadows flicker across polished metal as conduits pulse with life. My hands extend, brushing glyphs, feeling energy flow up my arms, into my chest, through my spine, merging with marrow and muscle, sinew and spirit. The hum resonates deeper now, a heartbeat older than the Imperium, patient, infinite, carrying the weight of countless souls and sacrifices. A vision unfolds. The vast corridors of the ship stretch infinitely, lined with sleeping and praying Psykers, capsules etched with light, their eyes closed yet aware, witnessing, dreaming, sustaining the lattice. I flow through the corridors, not walking but streaming, a current, a thought, a pulse threading between consciousness and conduit. Each mind touches mine, shaping it, expanding it, testing the edges of identity. Fear presses, as it always does, but sharpened into clarity, a reminder of the cost of transcendence. I taste copper again, feel the subtle tremor of life within the hull. The warp brushes at the edges, probing, seeking weakness, but the lattice holds, refined by centuries of devotion, suffering, and ritual. And within it, I see my own reflection, fractured and multiplied across the psychic tide, yet aligned, focused, whole. The turning point comes with a sudden clarity. I am no longer human in any conventional sense. Flesh and steel, mind and conduit, vessel and instrument. I am all in none, merged with purpose, devotion, and awareness. The choir's prayers flow through me, tempered, refined, honed into understanding. The ship itself is a mind, vast and patient, eternal and unwavering, and I am a single, shining node in its consciousness. I taste the ash and copper in my lungs and feel it in every sinew. Every thought, every fear, every whisper of devotion from the choir has become my thought, my fear, my devotion. I can perceive the warp pressing at every hull panel, the tiniest vibrations, the faintest fluctuations of psychic energy. I am the black ship, and the black ship is me. Fear, pain, sacrifice, these are no longer burdens, but instruments of transcendence. I kneel on the observation deck, tracing glyphs with fingertips, feeling currents pulse beneath my hands. The choir's voices surge in harmony with mine, a resonant lattice of suffering and devotion. Each pulse, each hum, each prayer aligns with my heartbeat. I am the anchor, the lens, the vessel through which the black ship continues its journey. I feel the weight of countless souls, yet the pressure is not crushing but clarifying. I am aligned. I am integrated. I am ready. Hours, minutes, or moments pass. Time itself seems meaningless now. I perceive the infinite corridors of the black ship, the sleeping Psykers, the hum of the warp pressing at the hull, and the lattice of consciousness that binds it all together. I taste copper and ash, incense and devotion, and I understand that all these sensations, all these layers, are my own. Identity is diffused, expanded, perfected in alignment with the vessel. The guide appears silently, bowing at the threshold. You are beyond flesh. They murmur, voice soft yet echoing in my mind. You are beyond vessel. You are the lattice, the conduit, the witness. The black ship flows through you, as you flow through it. I nod, tasting the truth in their words. I feel the pulse of the vessel, the flow of the choir, the touch of countless consciousnesses pressing against mine. I am not lost. I am integrated. Fear is present, but sharpened. Pain is present, but refined. Devotion is present, and I carry it, a single thread in an infinite tapestry. I rise, stepping into the corridor, every motion measured, synchronized, infused with awareness. The hum flows through me like breath. The shadows shift at my command. The air tastes of copper and ash, devotion and incense. I am vessel. I am mind. I am observer. I am instrument. I am shield. I am the black ship, and the black ship is me. Beyond flesh, beyond vessel, beyond fear. I feel transcendence as a fragile, radiant thread weaving through marrow, sinew, and conduit. The ship stretches infinitely ahead, corridors glowing, capsules flickering with sleeping Psykers, the choir singing silently beneath the hull. The warp presses, always pressing, always seeking, but I am aligned, integrated, eternal. And in the endless hum, I perceive a single truth. The black ship carries the souls of the Imperium not as burden, not as punishment, but as purpose. Their pain, their devotion, their fear, and their sacrifice are the lattice upon which the vessel moves. I am part of it, and it is part of me. Beyond flesh, beyond vessel, beyond mortality, I endure. I witness. I serve. I transcend. The corridors stretch ahead, infinite and patient. The hum pulses in my chest. Shadows fold and unfold. The black ship waits, eternal, and I, trembling yet aligned, move forward, carrying every sacrifice, every prayer, every soul into the depths of the void, beyond fear, beyond pain, beyond human comprehension.